Well, it's Wednesday night, and we are back for a live Panther-Lair show here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I should invite Jim, right? We want Jim to come and hang out. Wouldn't be a Panther-Lair show without Jim. So let me send him the link, because even though I should have done this a while ago, I'm, always trying to catch up. But, of course, we were off last week. I was out of town. It was a nice little trip there. Took a trip with the family, so didn't have a live Panther-Lair show last week, but we are back now, as always. And I apologize for not having a morning pit today. I think I said that we would have a morning pit on Wednesday, but didn't exactly work out that way for a variety of reasons, not the least of which being that American Airlines decided not to send me back to Pittsburgh at the time they were supposed to. They decided me and my family should hang out in Dallas for an extra 6 hours or something like that. But that's all in the past. So it didn't get back until very late last night. Didn't have time to tape a morning pit for today. But we'll have one for tomorrow. And obviously, we've got our live show here on Wednesday night, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. That way you don't miss any of our pit video content. We've got morning pit videos every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Now that we're back on schedule, we'll have morning pit videos every day of the week, Monday through Friday. We have these weekly live shows every Wednesday night at 8:30. We have press conferences, interviews, post-game shows, all kinds of things like that right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You want to make sure you don't miss anything. The way to do it is like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So do that. That would be cool. We get our numbers up. We always like that. And then we'll keep doing these things. But we've been doing it for a few years now. I always have to go back and check, try and remind myself when I started the morning pit. I want to say it was 2022. So we might be on coming up to the 3-year anniversary of that. I think that's when it might have been, because we did the Kenny Pickett show in 2021. And I don't think I was doing the morning pit at the time that we were doing the Kenny Pickett show. So it might have been 2022 when we started doing a daily show. We've been doing the live stream. Well, I was doing a podcast for a while, and then we turned it into a live stream. And we've been doing that for years now. I can't remember when we started that. You've been doing something for a long time when anniversaries pass and you just have no real memory of recollection of it. Somebody, I think it might have been last year, somebody pointed out, they're like, hey man, this is the 2-year anniversary of the morning pit. And I'm like, oh really? I had no idea. I guess I started it in training camp. Yeah, Swim Boyd says 3 years in August around camp. So maybe it was. I guess I could look back and try and find the first morning pit, but I guess 2022 sounds about right. So what is Pitt since I started the morning pit? They were 9-4 that year, and then 3-9, so that's 12-13, and 7-6, so 19-19. So Pitt is dead even, 500 record since we started doing the morning pit. Don't do the basketball numbers. We won't add those up. We'll just actually wait. No, we could. Hold on. Let's bring Jim in. And here's Jim is the math guy when it comes to our Panther-Lair operation. Jim, what is Pitt basketball's record since if I did start the morning pit in August of 2022, what would Pitt basketball's record be since then?
I'm trying to think. So that's the first year they won about 22 games, 22-11-ish, something like that.
Was that what they won the year they went to the tournament?
You know what? I'll just pull it up because I'm already halfway there.
Because look, I mean, Pitt made the NCAA tournament for the first time in 9 years. The first year we started doing the morning pit. I mean,
so they were 24-12 that year.
Okay.
Then the next year, 22-11.
Okay. So there's still plus 23 there, right?
17-15 this year.
So they're plus 25, their record, since we started doing the morning pit.
I think it's been it's really helped the program.
Yeah. Maybe I should look at conference. So they were in the 8-12 in the conference this year. Last year they were 12-8. So that's 20-20. And then 14-6. Yeah. So 34-26 in ACC play since we started doing the morning pit. I mean, look, correlation, causation, I don't know, but who am I to say that's not the case? Who am I to say that it's not because, I'm not going to sit here and say it's because of the morning pit that, Pitt is that many games over 500 since we started, but I'm not going to say it's not the case. Who knows? Who can say? Who can say? Jim, what shirt? Do you have a home field shirt on?
I
tonight?
do.
What do you got?
It's a timely one. It's DePaul.
Man, maybe should this become an official? Well, not official, but should this become a DePaul podcast? Should we start like a separate offshoot DePaul podcast, DePaul and Washington Wizards podcast, just to keep up with?
Yes.
No, skip the Wizards. Let's stay to college basketball. Should this become a DePaul and San Francisco podcast?
Probably,
like a supplementary thing?
Yeah.
Just to talk about Amsal and Guillermo?
I think like a couple weeks ago, like I like tweeted a joke about Amsal, and like I saw like the DePaul 247 site liked it. There, I was like, oh, Panther-Lair is always going to be an Amsal Delilich safe space, and they found the tweet. So maybe I hope their guys kind of do the same thing and just kind of make him this, the great basketball player that he is.
Can they? I don't know if they could really. I don't know if anybody can. Yeah, I don't think anybody can really match our energy when it comes to Amsal Delilich. I feel like we've got a bit of a monopoly on that. I think a lot of people. I think even when he was here, people tried to match it, but I just don't think it was. It was organic. And I told you. I think I told you when I did that interview with him over the summer, right? And it was like a Zoom interview, and he walks in and sits down at the Zoom, and as soon as he looks at me, he's like, oh, you're that guy. Like me and my family watched you talk about how you're not going to what did I do? I kept going, we're not going to overreact to an exhibition game. And I was like, we're not going to overreact to Pitt getting a 6'7" wing who can shoot. And he was laughing about it. He said him and his family watch it. And I felt bad at the time because I was butchering his name. That was back when we thought it was Amsal Delilich or something like that. We were way off on how, and I asked him right then, I'm like, oh, so you probably heard me butcher your name. How do you actually pronounce it? So even he knew the energy was there. He knew what the people wanted, and unfortunately the people were never able to get it. That reminds me of, I remember one time Keith Benjamin had this really big game, and Keith Benjamin didn't have many big games, but K Ruck up at Rucker Park, he was always putting on a show, and so his nickname was K Ruck. But he never really. But he did have an assist on that Ronald Ramon 3 that beat West Virginia at the buzzer. I don't know if you remember that play. Keith Benjamin drove, and Wellington Smith decided to help off of the biggest 3-point threat on the team, and he helps off, and Benjamin kicks it out the Ramon and he drains it. Anyway, Keith Benjamin had this huge game one time, and he came. He came into the post game. It might have even been a non-conference game. And he's like, I know the whole city's been waiting to see what Keith Benjamin could do. And everybody's been waiting to see what Keith Benjamin could do. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I don't think the whole city's waiting to see what Keith Benjamin can do. I think people like you, but I don't think, it's not like when Amsal Delilich came in after the, was it the Miami game? Was that his big
13 points or something?
Yeah. He came into the post game after that. And that was, I asked him a question about what I wanted to ask him is is it hard when you're on the bench that much to how do you fight the urge to come in and just want to score 50 points? You know what I mean? You're a guy who's been playing a ton. You're playing limited minutes. How do you kind of control, not get too hyped up, basically? And I said something how do you manage that when you've kind of, and I used the phrase held back. When I was when you've been held back. And I didn't see it at the time because I'm looking at Amsal Delilich. I'm asking the question, but our friend Stephen Thompson brought this up to me afterward, and I noticed it on the video. And if you go watch the post game, as I say that, Jeff Capel makes this face. He's and then he mouths. He goes, held back. And I was like,
oh man,
I was like, that's not what I meant. And then later, because the deal, they have the players and Capel together at the podium, and then the players take questions, and then they leave, and then we ask Jeff Capel questions. And somebody asked him something about Amsal, and he's talking about this or that. He's and it's something, and it's not like anybody's held back. They're just I'm like, oh, geez, dude. It was just it was a phrase. It wasn't exactly what I wasn't trying to start any controversy. I was just saying, how do you keep from getting too hyped up? But anyway, that message didn't exactly get through. But yeah, hopefully DePaul can match the energy. And it's good that he didn't go to, Wake Forest or, Miami or something like that. And then, because then it'd be we can have fun with following Amsal Delilich at
they're my favorite Big East team.
DePaul, absolutely. Yeah. When he drops 35 on St. John's, it's going to be so good. They'll still lose by 20, but it's going to be awesome when he does that. And San Francisco, should we buy in on San Francisco since Guillermo Diaz-Graham went there?
Yeah, I could get behind the Dons.
I just West Coast games might be too late. I might not be able to really keep up on them.
Yeah, that like those like Gonzaga, San Francisco, 11 o'clock tips.
Yeah,
those are tough.
Yeah. Whereas like DePaul, like we could be sitting here on a Wednesday. I don't know if the Big East plays games on Wednesday nights or not, but like game will end around 9 or quarter after, and we can give an update on how Amsal did. I mean, we could have it up streaming and just give updates every now and then. Hey, Amsal, doing this, Amsal doing that. So anyway, all right, we'll keep an eye on DePaul and see what happens there. I don't even remember what we were going to talk about. I just get so excited to talk about Amsal Belovic.
We didn't even like start.
No. Do you hear that buzz?
Is your dryer go off?
Yeah, I always forget to turn that stupid signal off. It's over there. It's around the corner. But I mean, I am all right. A little peek behind the curtain. I'll tell you the honest to God truth. I am the guy blogging from his basement. It's just the way it goes. So what can I do? As somebody, EL Smog 57 noticed that there are guitars back there. That's an acoustic. He asked what kind of guitars you have. That's an acoustic, and that's like a 1992 Telecaster or something like that, made in Mexico. So real fancy stuff here in the Panther-Lair offices. But we like to broaden our horizons here and be cultured. Anyway, what's going on lately? Josh Newark. This was an interesting development today, Jim. Josh Newark asked prediction on where Ishmael Leggett signs out of the portal, and Pitt fan H2P says he is out of eligibility. Well, what is eligibility anyway, right? I mean, like, eligibility is a state of mind anymore. If you think yourself a freshman, then you can be a freshman. If you think yourself a redshirt senior, then you are a redshirt senior. I mean, like, because, I mean, honestly, I mean, like, what, if there's a guy who's a freshman, right, and he transfers after his first year because of playing time, I mean, what is he doing? He's thinking of himself as a senior, right? Like, I should be getting seniors minutes, and so I guess you can just decide your own eligibility these days, right?
Yeah, anymore. It's interesting, and I think it was Jeff Goodman that posted the news about Ish, and Goodman himself has been like, well, what's eligibility anymore? Like, I don't understand. Yeah. Like, these guys are seniors. Like, Ish has been in college for 5 years, so I don't know. I guess they're kind of waiting on a rolling that might happen, that might not, and I don't know. There was stuff that was breaking on the house rolling just before we got on the show, so I don't know. Like, nobody really knows what's going to happen. So
I saw something about this, about the house settlement, and was it the judge or someone was like, nothing's done until it's done, effectively. Like, you guys are getting ahead of yourselves if you're cutting players or trying to grandfather guys in or something like that, that it's not, just because you thought it was done doesn't mean it is done or something. Like, I only glanced at it briefly. Is that what you saw?
Yeah, it was something with like the roster limits and like how like schools have proceeded to move forward, like thinking like, okay, we're going to have 105 football players, 15 basketball players. And like, that's not settled. And she's like, well, that's kind of the NCAA's problem and its member institutions. Like, you guys need to get this figured out before we can kind of move forward with everything. So I don't know. I think that's kind of all tied to like the Ish Leggett thing. Like, maybe somehow these guys will get a 5th or 6th year of eligibility. I'm not really sure, but I don't know if we got too far ahead of ourselves, just in college sports in general, just thinking like, oh, like it's done. Like, I guess it hasn't been signed. I guess it's not passed. So that's kind of where we are.
And I think the Leggett thing too. I mean, it's funny. Like, everybody's like making jokes at it. I think it's just like, well, just in case I get that extra year of eligibility, I want my name to have been in the portal. And yesterday was the last day he could put his name in the portal. I mean, he very well, if he gets that extra year of eligibility, he could very well come back to Pitt. You know what I mean? I don't know if it necessarily means that Ishmael Leggett is sitting there thinking, I want to play college basketball somewhere other than Pitt. It's just, what if he does get that extra year? Kind of, I think this is what you were getting at. Like, what if he gets that extra year and Pitt already filled its 15 spots, or he gets a crazy offer that's bigger than what Pitt can offer him in terms of NIL money. And so you keep that option open. And I've like stressed this over and over again, that the portal window for basketball closed yesterday. The portal window for football closes on Friday, but that's the That's the entrance. The exit is always still available, and it's just the last day you can go in. So it gives the coaches some sense, a concrete sense, really, of what they have coming back. That, all right, no matter what else, Jeff Capel knows he's got Cam Corrin, Brandon Cummings, and Omni Najai. Like nothing else is really guaranteed, but those guys are going to be on the roster next year, unless they're not playing college basketball. Like if they're playing college basketball, they will be on the roster at Pitt. And so that's what the portal window closing means. And I think we're a couple years into this now. Most people get it, that it's not like, oh, the portal window closed and Pitt only got 4 guys. What are they going to do? Well, no, they can still keep getting guys out of the portal, and they probably will into the summer. But for now, it's just that nobody else can go in. So if you want to kind of keep that option open in case you get that extra year of eligibility, you have to do what Ishmael Leggett did. It's interesting that Zach Austin and Damian Dunn chose not to do it. I guess they're just fully convinced that they are done with college basketball and don't want to do it anymore. But it's weird. It's all over the place. Everything's upside down, and eligibility is not really a thing anymore. Swim Boyd says, who's taking ownership of the injury question now? I feel like we should do it. I feel like I should ask an injury question every time.
That's going to be your thing.
I would say, well, Jeff Hathorn from The Fan is probably older than I am, but otherwise, we have a pretty young group of people covering Pitt right now. And with Jerry gone, I was already covering Pitt longer than he was, but now I think I'm probably the oldest person covering Pitt. Do you think of anyone who would be older than me? Like other than Jeff? Jeff is probably a few years older than me. Not much, but
I don't know. Are you and Will Graves about the same age?
Yeah, Will's a couple years older than me, I think. But he's with the AP,
He's not always there. Yeah,
he's not going to be there at every practice. He's not going to be there to ask the injury question. Well, he actually will. Will would ask the injury questions. Yeah, he would ask lots of injury questions. He's actually really good at that. But I guess I have to take that on, and I should text Jerry every now and then, and just be like, Jerry, you got anything good I should ask about? Like something that's going to get on Narduzzi's nerves and kind of shift that. Maybe I should sit in his seat. Although I think I'll keep that front row, seat 1A open for Jerry. It's like Jerry Glanville, used to leave tickets at will call for Elvis before every Falcons game and stuff like that. We'll keep Jerry's seat open for him, whenever he wants to pop in there. But yeah, I had Jerry on the morning pit last Friday. That was a fun conversation. I think a lot of people checked it out. There were decent numbers on that video. But if you're a Pitt fan, you haven't watched it, I highly recommend. It's still here on YouTube. I interviewed Jerry DePaula about his years covering Pitt and covering a lot more than Pitt. Pitt was his final chapter, but he had a lot of chapters before that. He did a lot of stuff, and he actually pointed out to me that, I don't know, do you remember when Ben Roethlisberger was a rookie? And Alan Faneca, there was a bunch of flack because somebody asked Alan Faneca, how do you feel about, having a rookie as a starting quarterback? And he was like, well, not great. It's a rookie. I don't want a rookie starting quarterback. He was being honest, there's something along those lines. And it turns out it was Jerry who asked the question.
Of course.
And Alan Faneca later was like, get out of here, Jerry. You set me up on that. You were trying to, bait me into something. I don't want to talk to you anymore. But him and Jerry made up. But it was
how could you stay mad at Jerry?
Yeah, it's hard to do. Anthony Tennyson says, good to see you back. Definitely missed not having a morning pit. Yeah, I apologize for that. Sometimes when we go away for a while, like last summer, I went away for a week and I was able to record a bunch of morning pits ahead of time and just load them in there. So there was some content, but it was just too hard. Like right now, Jim, with me being gone from last Tuesday until yesterday, there was the potential for too much to happen.
Right.
Right in the heart of the transfer portal window. And that actually kind of leads into something here. Joey Dealey says it's been pretty quiet for Pitt basketball since last Monday, which is funny. I didn't pre-record any morning pits because I was like, well, what am I going to do if, Cam Corrin goes into the portal or they land 3 more transfers? I'd have to be talking about that. But it has gotten quiet. They got those 4 guys kind of in a flurry with a couple weekends of visits, but then Nothing since DeMarco Minor, right? And when was that? Was that
Like
last 2
last,
weekends ago?
yeah, like yeah. I think I was like typing out some sort of article like Monday of last week, so I think it
Okay.
happened over the weekend.
So, I mean, what do we think? Just kind of resettling, or resetting the board, sitting back, taking another look at things. Like, what do you think the staff is at right now? And admittedly, like when we say things have sort of quieted down, it's not all in the staff's control. They might have 5 guys they want to land, and those guys are just taking their time. So it's not like the staff has quieted down or settled down or anything like that. But what do you make of the fact that it has gotten quiet for more than a week now?
Yeah, I wonder if it's just kind of like all across college basketball because like it's seemingly in like those last like 4 or 5 days before the portal closed, like a good amount of like good players were entering still, and like some guys that like caught people by surprise. And I don't know if that kind of reset everyone's board. Like, okay, there might have been, Duke and Kentucky might have been focused on these 3 guys, but now these 3 guys are available, so maybe we're going to start looking at them. So I don't know if it was just kind of like a national, like, okay, like, yeah, there was a lot of guys that got crammed into the portal at the very last minute, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, it has been quiet. It's been weird. We're still trying to like figure things out, but the way things are anymore, it's like everything's done with agents, and agents don't always like to talk to you and me. So, so they could be like very well further along than we realize, and hopefully we could tip you guys off somewhat ahead of time. But like as of right now, I don't know. It has been like eerily quiet around the Pitt basketball recruiting scene.
Yeah, they've kept everything really quiet this offseason overall. I think they've made it a point to try to minimize what gets out and kind of keep everything on on the down low. And they've been pretty effective at it. But you're right. I think there are like there is a domino effect, to reference a popular meme of dominoes falling down that gets used every now and then. There is a domino effect out there with some of these things. So like what St. John's just got the kid from Cincinnati today, I think I saw. So maybe that takes up a spot that someone else was waiting on, and now that person is now more in play than you previously thought, or maybe you're able to get them for a little bit less because they're not an option for St. John's, or if more guys go in, like you said, more guys go in, and now they become a priority for that program that was outspending you, and the guy that you thought you weren't going to be able to afford, now you have another chance at it. So I do think this could go on for a while. Plus, they have currently 8 scholarships accounted for, and they've got a handful of walk-ons, but technically they could add 7 more scholarship players if they were so inclined, if they booted all the walk-ons off the team, because they can get up to 15 roster spots. So there's plenty of room to fill. I could see them adding 1 or 2 here or there, 1 or 2 here or there, and this could go into May. It could go into June, right? I mean, when did they get Amsal last year? I feel like it was later on.
Yeah.
Like maybe even into the summer. Papa Amadou Conti was like later, was into the summer. I think Dior was into the summer. I mean, I think as long as you get guys here by the summer, so I mean, you could still see something happening in June. I think it could be a slow process that just kind of ups and downs as they land guys, and there's still a billion guys out there in the portal. Speaking of the portal, Pitt had Hakeem Williams, former 5-star wide receiver from Florida State, on campus as a transfer on Monday. Do I think the question from Joey Dealey here? Do you think Pitt has a strong chance on landing Hakeem Williams? I think they're in no worse than the top 3, probably the top 2. And so if you're in that spot, then you've got a strong chance. Whether they can pull it off or not remains to be seen. Some of that will come down to the money. Some of it will come down to the opportunity and how he feels about the fit in the offense. What do you think about Hakeem Williams, Jim? I mean, probably haven't watched much Florida State. I haven't watched much Florida State. They stunk last year, so it was even less appealing to watch them. But he did start like 8 games or 9 games last year. Obviously, the skills are there. The size is there. The speed is pretty good. His 1 touchdown was like a 40-yard or 44 or 50-yard catch and run. So he's got some speed. He's got some size. But for where the the ranking was, the projection was, the offer sheet, and all those things, it's not like his production in his first 2 years of college have really matched up to it. So what do is this just a risk worth taking because of the natural skills that seem to be there?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always try to, bet on upside in the portal. And I think, for a school like Pitt, like your best chance to get a 5-star is this exact scenario, a guy that you recruited, you just missed out on, but you kind of maintain that relationship with. So like, inevitably when he went into the portal, like Pitt was one of the first schools that contacted him. That was probably one of the first schools he had in mind as well. Like he had a pretty good connection. Even though like those assistants weren't there, like he still knows like Pat Narduzzi, like he's been to like Pittsburgh 3 or 4 times. He knows the support staff. So like he had a good base with Pitt. So it was only natural that, that was one of the first schools he visited. And I think that happened on Tuesday, yesterday. I think. But
Monday, I think.
Or
He
Monday.
was here on Monday, yeah.
Okay. But yeah, but I mean, as for the overall, like, I don't know. He played on what was very well possibly the worst Florida State team ever. Like their offense was 134th out of 134. I mean, like he just had no real chance for success, to put up numbers. So like I kind of get that, but I like betting on the upside. I mean, like, if Colorado's sniffing around, Syracuse is sniffing around, I mean, that's one you would like to win. I think that's a battle that you'd be interested in winning. So I think they have a good chance. I don't know if they, I can't say it's better than Colorado's or Syracuse. I mean, I think that's just kind of the battle right now, but Pitt's in it.
Yeah, Brock01 is a super chatter, says, hoping the second time around Hakeem chooses Pitt, but knowing Pitt's luck, they'll lose out to Colorado. Still holding out hope Pitt wins this one. Yeah, Colorado seems like the main competition, and obviously they've got ample NIL resources, with Deion Sanders leading the charge there. And so if it comes down to just straight dollars versus dollars, Pitt probably doesn't win out. It's a question, though, of, is he looking for dollars versus dollars, or is he looking for some dollars plus something else? If he considers Pitt to be a place where maybe he can develop better, or maybe have a better chance of furthering his hopes of playing at the next level, whatever it might be, then that could be the factor that kind of wins out. But I don't know. We'll have to see which way he leans. And I agree with you about, risk worth taking. The other thing too is it's like they could use a wide receiver for sure. I think they could use an upgrade in that room. You probably always could, but it's not a position of absolute need. Like I would say there's a greater need at tight end for a transfer than there is a wide receiver. Like this is a luxury. And I sort of feel that way about the Carolina DB, who I think is visiting now or is in town now to visit tomorrow, or they some defensive tackles that we've seen them linked to. Like I don't consider cornerback or defensive tackle to be positions of great need on this team. As a matter of fact, I think defensive tackle should be a pretty strong position for Pitt. And I think cornerback looks pretty good as well and deep, unless there's some departures or injuries we're not aware of. And so I don't consider either one of those positions of need. Like I would say, again, tight end, maybe another offensive lineman, but that's, probably just getting a little bit greedy and trying to get too much insurance there, or, a little bit more insurance there. I don't know. Is there another position? Like what's next closest to being a need right now from the spring portal window as you see it?
I mean, tight end is absolutely number one, just because they only have 3. Like you need 4 to get through a season. And one of them's a true freshman, and I think Max Hunt has a bright future, but like he's skinny. Like he doesn't look like a college football player just yet. So you definitely need a tight end. Yeah, I'm with you with line. Like you lost a couple young linemen to the portal. I don't know. Maybe you take like a somewhat on similar eligibility, take a sophomore with a couple years left, see if you could develop them. But like it's gonna be a tough sell to like try to get a starting offensive lineman in the portal right now. I don't know. I'd be interested in maybe a defensive end. Like I don't know if those guys did enough. And I mean they added 3, but like I always felt last year they could have added 3 or 4 and it would have helped. So like I don't hate adding pass rushing depth, but other than that, I mean, like linebacker seems good, safety seems set. I mean, I really wasn't. I thought they could go into this year at corner with, Battle, Lynham, Harrison, and Murray, and probably be okay with it. So Ferguson's, he'd be a nice luxury to have, a good upside player as well. But he's not like someone I was like penciling in like they absolutely need to have. So I tight end and defensive end are kind of my two spots. I think they need some help.
It's interesting. They brought in 3 defensive ends this year. They brought in 3 defensive ends last year. I just feel a lot more confident in this year's group. And maybe it's because David Ojebwe last year hadn't really played at all. Chief Borders was changing positions. Nate Matlack had played in a different defense. Whereas these 3 guys this year, Blaine Spires and Jaden Moore and Joey Zielinski, have all done this sort of thing. It's a different defense, but it's still they're playing a 4-3 defensive end, which none of those guys had really been doing. Ojebwe kind of, but he hadn't played really as a true freshman at Clemson. And so I just think the experience, the semi-familiarity, and just I think these 3 guys might be better than those 3 guys last year. So I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you about bringing in another pass rusher. I think you could always use more pass rushers. But do you agree? Do you feel better about this year's group of transfer ends than last year's?
Looking at the 6 total, I mean, like Jaden Moore, like seems like he can be really good. I think for what Pitt does in its defense, and like I don't know, Oregon was the top 3 team all of last year, and he was getting like regular snaps. So like, yeah, sure, like they could definitely get take that and use it. So Spires, I think he had a good year in 2023. And there was a lot of expectations that he got hurt like right away this year, and that's why he's eligible, to have this extra year at Pitt. So, yeah, I can buy that. The thing with Borders, like he was like a linebacker at Nebraska. Like Pitt was his 3rd school. Now he's at UNLV. Matlack was, Kansas State runs with a 3-4. So like, you're right. Like they didn't get guys that played the position. They were trying to like fill in with what they could get. That's kind of how last year's class felt.
Yeah. Scrolling through here. City of Champions 09 says Jorge versus Guillermo in the WCC. Chris, San Fran versus Oregon State. Is Jorge going to Oregon State?
I must have missed that.
I'm searching it. I mean, I don't see anything on Twitter about Jorge.
He doesn't have anything on his Instagram.
Yeah, I don't see anything about him. Yeah, and I'm looking on his Twitter. Nothing there as well. All that there really is Guillermo going to San Francisco. So, yeah, I don't see anything about that. That'd be fun if they were playing against each other. You know what would be interesting to see is both of those guys, how they get used. Like, does Jorge still stay out as a wing, just playing like a 3-4 type of role? Does Guillermo go back to playing a center spot? Like, I wonder how San Francisco, now we might have to stay up late and watch some of these San Francisco games to see how they use Guillermo. Like, I think because I felt like there was a spot where we saw each of those guys in their best roles. And for Guillermo, it was the 5, the stretch 5. And for Jorge, it was probably as like, I don't know, a 4. Because the 3, I feel like there was too much ball handling, right?
Yeah, and like who's he gonna like? He can't really defend a 3 either. Like he would just get guys would just blow by him. So yeah, I'd be interested to see just Jorge getting like regular college basketball minutes just to see what it would look like. Like there was times this year he hit some shots and like he looked valuable. So maybe in the Pac-12, or WCC, sorry, rest in peace Pac-12. Maybe if he does go to Oregon State, that'll be a good fit for him. Like I think sometimes you just kind of need to play through it. Like he got injured his second year, his first year he obviously wasn't ready to play. So like he's just never really had his chance. So like I think for him going into the portal, I think we said it when it happened. It was like he just needs to find somewhere to play. Like this is, we're getting towards the end of, I don't know how many years of eligibility he has because nobody knows, but he should only have 1, but like, I don't know. So, well, actually he got injured. He probably does have 2.
I mean, he has as many as he wants, William Richter says Pitt basketball has a bunch of dogs. I like it. We haven't had that for a long time. I think some of the guys will improve their scoring percentages. And if the dogs can play together, watch out. So there does seem to be this effort or intention of making a big, tough, physical Pitt basketball team that reminds everyone of Brandon Knight and those guys. in the mid 2000s. That seems to be the idea. And it seems to be what they're largely executing in the portal with who they're targeting and who they're getting. And that's cool, but like, does it work? Does it still work? Like, can it work in the ACC?
I mean, in today's college basketball, you need shooting. Like that is like the next thing, like in the portal they need to get. But like they did get pushed around a lot this year. Like they did start 2-6-2 guards, and teams kind of knew it, and they boxed them in, and really made life hard on Jalen and Ish at times. So like I get wanting to be stronger and more physical and not get pushed around. And I think of their 4 portal pickups, they probably have 3 starters like Deshaun Jackson, DeMarco Minor, and Barry Dunning. Like those are 3 guys that are going to log a lot of minutes. And I mean, you look at DeMarco Minor, like, less shooting percentage than Nelly Cummings, but he kind of has that profile of like, he's a senior. He's been around. He's started a lot of games. Like I think that's kind of what they were going for. Like, let's just get a tough guy that can distribute. Then Deshaun Jackson, I mean, he started for a top 25 team this year. The Big 12 is a physical league. Like, I kind of get what they were going with there. And you look at Barry Dunning, he's just a really athletic, big guy. Kind of reminds you of Zach Austin in a way, just probably a little bit better scoring. So, like, I get, like, all 3 of those guys make sense from that point of view. It's like, all right, we're going to play a little bit more physical. We're not going to get pushed around as much. I don't know if that means they're going to be better or worse for it basketball-wise, but, like, I understand the logic of, like, all right, like, we got pushed around a lot this year. Let's not have that happen again.
It sort of feels, though, like you take a guy like Minor, a physical, veteran, experienced guard, and it sort of feels like a bit of a reflection on how the staff feels about or felt about Jalen Lowe, right? A guy who maybe was not quite as physical, didn't have as much experience. Meanwhile, ignoring, like, shooting was the bigger problem, and rebounding was a bigger problem, and defense was a bigger problem than maybe Lowe's inexperience. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it, and I know it's not which players you take first are not necessarily the priority. Shooting could still be the number one priority here, but, like, I don't know, does he solve, like, what problems from last year does the physical experience point guard solve, in your view?
I don't know. I mean, like, some of the inefficiency on offense. I mean, like, how many games this year was Jalen Lowe playing hero ball? Like, It's like, all right, like, I'm going to score 18 points. It's going to take me 19 shots to get there. Like, I don't know if you're trying to eliminate that, but there's probably something to be said for someone like Minor, who I think he averaged 5.8 assists this year for Oregon State. So I don't know. I mean, like, maybe it opens things up offensively, but I've said all along, I always think Pitt's better, like, at least, since watching Jeff Capel's teams, like, when they have 2 guys like that, when they have 2 guys that can initiate offense. Like, yeah, they got their DeMarco Minor, their Nelly Cummings, but they still need their, like, Jamarius Burton. They still need that second guy that can kind of run offense, and ideally that guy can shoot as well. So, like, I don't know if that exact player is in the portal, probably, because there's 3,000 players in the portal, but I think that's kind of what they need to target. Like, so I can appreciate that they're going with Minor with the thought that, okay, this guy has started 99 college basketball games in his career. He, at his first stop, he scored a lot. At his second stop, he was more of a distributor. So, like, they're kind of, I guess they're kind of hoping he can blend all that together next year and have one good senior year.
It's just interesting to think about portal additions as a reflection on what the staff thought was wrong. Like, if each year your portal additions are in some way indicative of what you thought needed to be fixed about that. Like, I used to have this ongoing thread in my head of, like, you go from Walt Harris to Dave Wanstead. Well, you needed to get somebody who could play Pittsburgh style football and somebody who was from here and appreciated being from here. And that's what Wanstead had that Walt Harris didn't have. Right. And then you go from Wanstead to Mike Haywood briefly, and then Todd Graham. Well, you need somebody who's not a dinosaur. You need somebody who's up to date on modern football, who wants to score a lot of points. And that's what they brought in, right? And Todd Graham, because he filled that void. And then, after Todd Graham, you just need somebody who's, like, sincere, and has a soul and fits in better culturally around here. So you bring in Paul Christ, who is, like, more of a Pittsburgh kind of guy, right? And you get done with that. Well, you need somebody a little bit more life, a little bit more energy, a little bit more enthusiasm, and you bring in Panther. So each guy sort of filled what was missing from the last guy. And I wonder if like we can, particularly on basketball, because if you have fewer guys that sort of make up the identity of the team, I wonder if, you could go from, the year when they brought in Nelly Cummings and Blake Hinson and Greg Elliott, you could say from the previous year, they needed culture and a strong locker room, and they needed that kind of foundation. So they brought in some guys who fit character wise. You know what I mean? The next year, I mean, it was weird because they had like really good freshmen coming in, but they bring in, Austin and Leggett because they need athleticism and some guys who can score. They needed Leggett who could create his own shot. Last year, they brought in Cam Corrin because they felt like they needed more offense and rebounding out of the center position. It's just interesting to think about these guys. Jackson, who, again, because you need more rebounding out of the center position, you bring in Deshaun Jackson, Dunning Jr. because you need a scorer on the wing, and then DeMarco Minor because I guess it's Minor who sticks out to me as interesting because of being a veteran physical guard, sort of feels like the staff saying we felt like we struggled last year because we didn't have a veteran physical guard.
Yeah, I mean, I get that line of thinking, but like Jeff knows that like he was not gonna get like an A for A trade with Jalen Lowe. Like the guy you were going to bring in to replace Jalen Lowe was not going to be as good as Jalen Lowe individually. Like he might be able to fit into this team better, but like from a pure talent standpoint, Pitt was never going to be able to replace that level of player, and that's why he's at Kentucky, and that's why they spent a lot of money to bring him in. But I don't know. I mean, like, do you always build off of what last year's team is, or do you just try to build something new? I mean, at this point, you're only returning 3 guys. You kind of have a blank canvas. So I don't know if it's totally an indictment on Lowe and what they felt about him and what he lacked as a player and what Minor can bring, or, they're just trying to build a whole new identity altogether. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, also you lose, when they lost Jamarius Burton and Nelly Cummings, they had Bub Carrington and Jalen Lowe coming in as freshmen. They don't have like a stud point guard coming in as a freshman.
Right.
So you're going to go out and find somebody. So of course you're going to look for a veteran. You know what I mean? You want to find an experienced guy to fill that role. So I'm probably reading too much into it. Football side, Fred Thompson wants to know why the O-line exodus. I mean, it's 3 guys, right? 3. Is that right? Yeah. Tarantinos, Moshmo, and Adham Abaraya. I mean, Abaraya and Schmoranzer were down the 2 deep. I mean, they weren't on the 2 deep. I mean, they were guys who were third team at best. I mean, they're redshirt freshmen and guys who were not, going to be in line for any playing time this year. And so they went looking for playing time. Tarantinos wasn't going to move into the starting lineup. I think he probably saw that. And I think he's a redshirt senior this year, right?
Right.
I think he's 2021 class. So he wanted a chance to be a starter. And I can't fault him for that. It hurts Pitt's depth. I think inevitably a guy in Tarantinos' position was going to get on the field, but he probably looked at it and he was like, okay, maybe I'll get on the field. Or maybe, one of these transfers is going to be coming off the bench, whether it's Gouveia or Kendall Stanley or Jeff Percy. One of those guys is not going to start, I would say. And if they go get another offensive lineman out of the portal, there'll be another transfer who doesn't start. And so, Enos might have looked at it like, hey, I'm just not going to jump over these guys. And so I'm going to go somewhere that I can play because I want to play now. It's my final year. It hurts their depth. Enos hurts their depth the most because one of the things I kept saying is last year they had a solid starting 5, but they had no experience depth behind it. And that is ultimately what sunk them. This year, I kept saying they have a solid starting 5 and they've got experienced guys in the depth. They have Enos, they have Isaiah Montgomery, they have Jackson Brown. These guys all started games last year and played. So Enos hurts their depth, but I don't think it's an O-line exodus as much as they brought in 3 transfers and some younger guys might feel like they're not going to get that shot,
Yeah, and I that's just kind of the change in college sports right now. It's like normally you could expect a guy like Moshmo to be here for a while and like develop him. And I don't know, guys have that opportunity now. It's like, all right, like I know I'm not going to play this year. I know I'm only a redshirt freshman, but maybe I can go play at Appalachian State. And like they have that opportunity now. So you just see less offensive line development, and like that's kind of the one position you need to get developed. Like you kind of want to have that continuity. So I don't know, that might hurt down the line. And I don't know, did those guys commit before, or before Cade Bell was here, like where they could like recruited to play in a more running style, pro style offense, like maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like it's like Darvo wasn't the guy that actually recruited them. So maybe that plays a little bit into it. But yeah, I'm with you. Like Enos is the only one that probably affects the team this year. And like we're talking about like the 7th or 8th best lineman on the team.
Right. And and then the other transfers, just because it was brought up, 2 wide receivers, Andy Jean, in and out in a matter of 4 months. No idea what I mean, I don't get it. Like, unless you just really hated the city or had some bad relationships or something like that with coaches or teammates or whatever. Like, I don't get how Andy Jean comes in here from Florida in January and transfers out in April. I mean, you made it 3.5 months and you were like, nope, not going to get a shot here. But then Cam Montero, redshirt freshman wide receiver, I kind of think, and maybe it was with both of those guys, but probably with Montero, we probably looked at it and, I think some of those freshmen who enrolled early, Tony Kinsler and Bryce Yates and Cam Sapp, I think some of those guys were getting reps ahead of him. And I think if you are an upperclassman and a freshman starts getting reps ahead of you, you can probably assume you're not going to be ahead of those guys on the depth chart. So you've got the guys that you're going to be behind, your Kenny Johnsons or Raphael Williams or Sincere Lees or Deuce Spann or whoever it might be. But then if the freshmen are passing you, I get it. You know what I mean? Like I get it. And I think that's one of the reasons for the quote unquote good reasons for the transfer portal is you want to go find an opportunity. Coaches will tell you, you should stick it out and fight for your job. Well, there's been plenty of guys who finished their careers with 3 catches because they stuck it out and fought for their job and never got there because they got recruited over. And so I can't fault that. And same thing with Schmorenzer and Abaraya. I mean, those guys probably could have stuck around and try, but if it wasn't a fit, it wasn't a fit. So 6 so far. Jake Renda's the other one. I think they'll miss Renda. I think it's just because last spring they raved about him and how he was going to fit in with this offense, and that a guy like him as a big receiver playing tight end was going to be a really good fit and have a role and be used in Cade Bell's offense. So that one, I think that created a bit of a hole at tight end. But ultimately, I think Enos is probably the biggest out of these 6 departures, right?
I think so. But yeah, you're talking about no starters have entered the portal in the spring window yet, which closes Friday. So, yeah, I mean, I think Renda was going to play. I mean, you see how they've been recruiting tight ends. Like, he's kind of in the mold of guys they're offering in high school. So, like, yeah, it did make sense that they were high on him. But the guy never, like, he just had, like, terrible injury luck, like, up there with, of all the guys I've been covering, probably up there with, the very best of them. I mean, guy was just always hurt. He was even hurt during the spring. I don't even think he participated some of the days we were there, most of the days we were there. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah. John D. I don't know how to pronounce this. Degener? What do you think, Jim? Like degenerate? Like you left off the ATE at the end?
That's what I was saying.
Degener? John D says we could use a big-bodied running back. It felt like the numbers were down this spring. They only had 2 available running backs in the spring game, right? Justin Cook and Ja'Kirian Turner.
Yes.
But they had more guys, obviously, Desmond Reed and Juelz Goff. And then Sinquan Smith and Jalen Brown are coming in. It was funny. I asked Lindsey Lamar before the Blue Gold game. I asked him, the running backs coach, I was like, do you think you'll try and bring somebody else in because your numbers are down? And he's like, well, we have 2 more freshmen coming in. So they'll have ultimately 5 scholarship running backs. I don't get the sense that this staff on offense particularly cares about having a big back. I mean, as evidenced by their lack of usage for Daniel Carter last year. Like, they don't care about having a big back. And their numbers aren't really that bad. I mean, granted, 3 of the guys are freshmen, and one is did Goff end up taking a red shirt last year? Or was he a sophomore?
No, he's a red shirt. He had that cast on his.
That's true. He didn't play until late. So you have 3 freshmen and a redshirt freshman out of your 5 guys. But I don't know. I don't see them really trying all that hard to get a running back, particularly not because they feel like they need someone big.
Yeah, I think we had like the last time we had this show, we had this similar question, and it's going to be a similar answer. It's like I don't really want Desmond Reed off the field all that much if I'm Pitt. Like he's the guy that needs to be out there, and you don't. I don't know what kind of role you're selling to a big running back because one, they don't use it, and two, they already have running backs they like ahead of you. So, I, at what kind of quality of player are you getting selling that role? Like, hey man, come be our fourth running back for a goal line package that we hardly ever use.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like and in their goal line package, they also have a quarterback who's built like a tight end and a number 2 quarterback who's a really good runner. So like there's, and can throw too. So like you don't need a big back in your goal line back. Oh, and they also have Isaiah Neal, right? So if they want to use a fullback, they've got a defensive tackle they can roll out there, which always works.
Mm-hmm.
City of Champions 09 mentioned Jorge Diaz-Graham in Oregon State, says he's followed by a crap load of OSU staffers. So maybe that's where that's coming from.
Okay.
That he's that Jorge has a lot of followers from Oregon State. So maybe there's something there. Brock 01 says Jacob Thomas, the class of 2027 commitment, picked up 3 offers today: Louisville, West Virginia, and Maryland. Is this guy going to be the real deal? I mean, he has not stopped picking up offers since he committed to Pitt month and a half ago. He committed right after we moved to 247. So it was like March 1st or March 2nd, somewhere around there. And he has picked up, it seems like, a new offer every day. And it's not quite that, but some days he picks up 2. I don't know. He looks really good. He's fast. I think he ran a 10.38 in the 100. So he's blazing speed. Yeah, the offer sheet looks legit. Every day he seems to have new offers. I think when he committed, we said, well, that's a commitment from a sophomore. And those probably, I would say, a majority of the time don't hold up, regardless of whether the kid gets a ton of new offers or not. So I think we were always a little bit skeptical. We'll see. Shout out to JJ Laster, the wide receivers coach, and Cade Bell for finding him and landing him. We'll see what happens with his recruitment. But I mean, I don't know. Have you gotten a chance to watch him much? Do you have any thoughts on him?
No, I mean, I have it, and like part of it was just like, oh, like some random kid from Florida is going to commit. I remember when you texted me like, hey, they're getting a commitment today. I was like, really? From him? Like, that's never going to last. And all of a sudden he has all these offers. So, I mean, I'm trying to think the last time Pitt had a commitment from like the year prior. And like the only one that's really sticking out to me is like Paris Ford.
Yeah, Paris Ford. Yeah.
Like,
Rodney Hammond actually committed.
You're right.
He was in the 21 class. He committed when Pitt was playing at Georgia Tech in 2019. I just remember interviewing him from my hotel room in Atlanta. Oddly enough, Paris Ford committed when I was on the way to the airport to fly to cover Pitt's game at Georgia Tech in 2015. So sophomore commitments prior. Yeah, I almost missed my flight because of that, because his coach got me on the phone sitting in the parking lot of the airport, and I'm recording it. And then I'm like, well, I got to write this. This is a huge story. Like, he hadn't announced it yet. So this was like a pre-interview where I had the article I had to get it written. But I'm like watching the clock as I'm like typing. And I'm like, crap, I really got to hustle here. And like, I don't know if I sprinted through the airport, but that's the closest I've ever gotten to actually running in the airport. And then I was like, you better tell me that you're announcing it before my plane leaves so I can hit publish. And I think he did, and it all worked out. But anyway, there's something connected to Georgia Tech. But otherwise, trying to think of guys who committed that early and then flipped. I mean, other than like Terrell Pryor for Pitt basketball. But do you remember any other like sophomore commitments who, like, there aren't that many to begin with?
Right.
Who else has Pitt had? Do you remember? I guess Darius Farmer, did he commit when he was a sophomore, or was that his junior year? That might have been his junior year.
Yeah, junior year, Christmas Day.
Christmas, yeah. Jasir Whittington was like the same thing. He committed in like December or something like that. But that was his junior year. Sophomores, I can't really think of too many.
No,
I wonder if Exree Lowe might have committed before Paris Ford in the 2017 class. Actually, he might have committed that summer. And I mean, like, clearly, given where he grew up, like, probably you just can't trust him. You know what I mean? Like, you can't trust guys from from Johnstown.
Come on, man.
You just can't. And so you should know that wasn't going to stick. But he's one who committed early and then didn't end up sticking. But I think that might have been one where the coaches kind of walked away from a little bit, because that's the other thing with taking these commitments so early is, like, you don't know how that kid is going to grow and develop.
Right, yeah.
First of all, he might get other interests or other offers that he likes, or it just might turn out like he doesn't develop the way you expected him to. There have been a lot of sophomore offensive linemen who get a ton of offers and then none of them are committable by the time they're senior because they didn't keep growing or they got slow or whatever it may be. So there's always a lot of factors that goes into it. But for right now, it looks impressive. This kid who's committed to Pitt, does he even still have it on his Twitter? I'm going to check this real quick. I don't even know if I want to see if it's in his Twitter bio. It is not in his Twitter bio, and it's not his pinned tweet either.
Yeah. That's just not going to last, I don't think.
But all the people who quote tweeted his new offers and referred to him as Pitt commit, he did retweet them. So
I just noticed he went to the same high school as Hakeem Williams. Flanagan.
I think Hakeem went to Stranahan.
Oh, you're right.
It's not Stranahan, not Flanagan.
I got my ANs wrong.
Yeah, your Irish names or whatever they are. All right, here, Will Z. All right, Jim and Chris, prediction. Next Monday, is Kenny Johnson still a Panther? Yes or no? Oh, he said your name first, so you have to answer.
Man. I'll say this. Last Wednesday, we thought it was pretty close to like being a done deal, like to the point where, okay, we should probably get something ready. And it still hasn't happened. So that tells me, one, there was some sort of offer made by some school. And two, there was probably some sort of counter offer made by Pitt. I'm guessing Pitt's offer didn't match the school that's enticing him to leave. But it's probably competitive, and they're probably selling them on like, hey, man, like you are literally the number one wide receiver for a team that likes to throw the ball a lot. So I'm sure he's having those conversations. Come Monday, for some reason, I think he still might be a Pitt Panther just because it has dragged out for a week now.
Yeah. Yeah. If I had somebody definitively saying to me right now, no, he's gone, I would say no, probably not. Otherwise, I'll default to the status quo and say, kind of like you. I mean, because we've been hearing this for more than a week now. And the fact that it hasn't happened makes me think that maybe it won't. But we'll see. I guess we should know by Monday or Tuesday. That's the other thing, too. Like, Friday is the day the portal closes, and that's the day the players have to have their paperwork in. But the school doesn't have to actually submit it to the NCAA for like 2 business days or something like that, or 48 hours or something like that. So just like, Ishmael Leggett, the news about him going into the portal came out today, even though the portal window closed yesterday, right? Like,
yeah,
so there may be, just because you wake up Saturday morning and you haven't seen anything about some, your favorite player or whoever going into the portal, doesn't mean it might not still happen. It just might not come out until Monday or Tuesday. So that's that way people can still panic throughout the weekend.
Yeah, it'll be normal and nice.
Cool. All right. I think 9:30. I think that seems like. Oh, somebody just asked, did Elliot Donald ever transfer anywhere? No, I think he's done. I think he's what do we call it? Joey Dealey says Elliot Donald's coaching the youth in Pittsburgh. That's what it looks like. He's doing some D-line training and D-line coaching. It looks like he decided to hang it up. He went into the portal. He announced that he was going into the portal, but I'm not sure if he graduated. But it looks like he's just going to coach kids in Pittsburgh, which good for him. I mean, if that's what he's called to, I know he's been working at those 2/10 camps in the past couple of summers and doing a nice job there. So good luck to him. Hope it works out. Nice kid, smart kid. Always struck me as a smart guy. Maybe he can share some of what he's learned with the youth of the city. All right, let's call it there. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in tonight. It's been fun, as always. We'll have a new morning pit for you tomorrow, and then the mailbag on Friday. Those are always fun. Of course, we'll see what happens. We didn't even talk about the draft, Jim, but there's probably not anything notable that's going to happen tomorrow, and probably not even Friday. So we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. Give us something to talk about. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for the comments and the questions. It was fun. Missed doing this last week. Glad to be back at it. Jim, thank you for your time. And everybody have a good rest of your night. We'll catch up with you with the Morning Pit tomorrow right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.